Hey folks, how you doing? Not really sure what's going on with that bird. Hey folks, how you doing? We just got back from vacation to Washington, D.C. So I got myself a new hat here. And we're in the middle of a heat wave here in Connecticut, and I think in the western U.S. as well. Maybe all the U.S. and Europe too. But what I want to do today is just take you around the yard and show you some cool things. Not really a whole yard tour, but just some highlights that kind of keep me interested. Since we're near these Hosta anyway, I did just want to show you how nice this Hosta's filling in. And yesterday when I was out in the yard, there was actually a butterfly, I believe it was a monarch, going around from flower to flower on these Hosta. And they are loaded with bees. But again, I'm not a huge Hosta fan, but I really like the way this swath of Hosta's working out, and in the right spot, it works. Trying to get a shot of this Leucothoi. This is Leucothoi axillaris without the sun glare behind it. But I've talked about pruning this, and eventually I'll get to it. But I'm hoping you folks are just seeing, maybe if we move this way, I'm hoping you folks are just seeing how kind of natural this Hosta, this Leucothoi looks. My apologies. You know, it's probably 3.5 to 4 feet high and 5 to 6 feet wide. And even if I didn't prune this, it would be fine. But I just want to get in with my pruners and, you know, thin it out quite a bit and take it back. So that's coming, but I love the look of Hosta axillaris. I love the look of Leucothoi axillaris. Not sure what's going on. It's early, folks, all right? I'll admit. Leucothoi axillaris, I love that look because it's not such a formal look. I like more informal things in the garden. And then while we're over here, I've also got my Actea pachypoda growing in the shade here, and this is pachypoda because it's a white. It would be Actea rubra if these were red. And I've also got one more starting over there. And while we're back here, you know, the daffodils have definitely died back, and by now I could just take a leaf rake and just rake them back. But earlier in the season, when I was in the front of the house where there's some daffodils, what I did is I took a scuffle hoe, it's like a U-shaped hoe, made sure I had a nice sharp edge on it, and I used the scuffle hoe to just cut the Hosta. Then I took my rake to rake them up. You know, once the majority of the foliage is yellow and falling to the ground, I try to do things with a minimal amount of bending over. Or if I do bend over, I try to stay down so I can be on my knees, because going up and down all day isn't really my idea of fun. All right, and then in this little bed over here, again, I'm not really sure what's going on with the cardinal flower. You can see where they've died back here, but this is why we grow cardinal flower. You see these nice little red blooms, and these are, you know, these are fairly small. We did get a ton of rain yesterday, no, 2 days ago. So the ground was like powder, but here's a pretty good example of cardinal flower in full bloom. And there's no water nearby to this one. I don't know why this one is doing that, but I think I mentioned, I think the reason these cardinal flower die is because possibly they were root bound, and as they get older, they're choking themselves out. And perhaps the one I planted over there was a seedling that started growing in the garden. If cardinal flower is happy, it will self-sow quite readily. I need to either plant some more penstemon to fill in this corner, or try something else. You know, there's usually a puddle here when it rains, so something that likes it a little bit wetter at times but can handle drought would be a good choice. So we'll see what we come up with. So while we're here, I just want to show you folks, there's a woodpecker in this tree See this woodpecker? And it loves sugar water. So the hummingbirds have kind of given up on this feeder. There's two of them that are just like constantly there getting the sugar water. And then we have another hummingbird feeder right there on the window. And that's the one that the hummingbirds actually come to. And we have two males and at least one female that'll show up at that one at times. And if I'm in the house, what I'll end up doing is I literally just freeze and watch the hummingbird. And one of my cats also enjoys watching the hummingbird, but luckily she is an indoor-only cat. And then I did just want to show you the begonia here. You know, this is one I got about a month ago, and I really love that pink. And what I want to do is, you know, it's already getting kind of lanky, is just go through and cut them back like by 1/3 or 2/3 to just beyond a leaf, so it'll brush out, you know, bush out and stay shorter. But there's my tuberous begonia, and then these two in this pot are from last year, and then I went and got this one this year, and then this is another pot that is from last year. And I've been fertilizing these every 2 weeks with a liquid fertilizer. And as time goes by, they've been getting greener and greener. And I'm pretty sure that maybe by the next update video, you know, we'll have some flowers on the older tuberous begonia, and everything's going to be looking, you know, as if I bought them at the nursery this year. And then this little fuchsia I bought. Really haven't figured out where I am with fuchsia. I always thought there was like a trick to growing them, and I'm still not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know if this one, maybe the fuchsia doesn't like the heat we got. I've got it in shade, but I've got one more in the front yard that they're surviving. They're like a 5 out of 10. I'd like them to be like a 7 or 8 out of 10. But I do kind of like the way the red of the fuchsia is up higher, and it's the same, you know, the same color range as the pinks below. So this garden over here, luckily we did have that rain a couple days ago, because like everything, even the milkweed was weepy. And we did get a ton of rain too, so that worked out really well. But notice the dogwood, you know, is kind of, you know, not looking great. I think this is just drought stress. And while we're here, the milkweed, the common milkweed, has its seed pods coming. Still no evidence of caterpillars on it. I wish there was. But what I want you to notice is the common milkweed. So it's mid-July right now. The common milkweed is done blooming, but the swamp milkweed is just coming into bloom. So this is swamp milkweed back here, Asclepias incarnata, and this is the one that I have the best chance of seeing caterpillars on, butterfly caterpillars, monarch butterfly caterpillars, and it's got a little bit of aphids there. And I just don't even bother. You know, worst case, I could cut some of it off and throw it away. I don't spray insecticides and pesticides and herbicides because I just don't want to. I don't want to make the problem any worse. And then here's a nice pink Hydrangea arborescens, and this this blooms on the current year's growth. So it, you know, it's a very reliable bloomer, and then it'll just die back to the ground in the fall, and you can just cut it back to the ground. You can cut it halfway to the ground. You can prune it however you want because it's gonna bloom on the current year's growth. And then this over here is some kind of an allium, and I'll see if I can find the tag and put what it is. But I didn't really start seeing this until about. I didn't really start seeing it till about 5 years ago, so maybe it started coming around about 10 years ago. But the bees seem to like it. And it's, you know, alliums, any allium is like super easy to grow. So Unfortunately, I'm not particularly a fan of alliums because to me this just doesn't look like something you would see in a New England landscape. But if you're looking for something really low maintenance, likes hot and dry, in full sun, this allium seems like a pretty good choice. And my Shasta daisies over here are just falling out of bloom, and these are so far away from the house that I honestly barely even notice them. I should have probably cut some, used some for cut flowers. And then this is the random yellow plant that I don't know what it is, but if anybody does, please let me know. And then this is just a really cool plant that's been in bloom for quite a while. I like that. The elephant ears are really starting to come into their own now that we got into this really hot, humid weather. And I've been hitting these every 2 weeks with fertilizer and watering them almost daily. So they're really filling in, and by the next update video, so let's say in 2 or 3 weeks, they're just going to be luscious, full plants. So yeah, they're a little bit root bound in the pots, but it just amazes me that this time of the year, how quickly things start growing and filling in. And I've still got the flowers coming there. There's a flower there. There's another flower there. They come in twos on this one. So I've been basically just cutting the flowers off when I see them, because I'm not really trying to propagate them, but when I see flowers, to me that means that they're very happy. And some more coming down here as well. So we're just going to keep watering them, keep fertilizing them. It's only mid-July, so we've still got all of August and all of September with no frost, so that's a good 2 months plus half of July. And they're just going to keep getting fuller and fuller. And I know I talked about potting them, dividing them and potting them, but I honestly, they fill in, they look so nice, I really don't know if I will or not. So I just thought I'd show you, this is by the front of the house, which is about, the sunniest spot you're going to find in my yard. So this gets watered daily. You really can't go wrong. It just keeps growing and blooming. Give it some fertilizer once in a while, and if it ever gets overgrown, like within another couple of weeks, I could probably just cut this whole pot back in half and then give it a week or two and it'll come right back into bloom. So when I left for my vacation, you could actually see, you could see the dirt around these petunias, and they've just come up and they're gorgeous. And because they're seedlings, you'll see variation in the flowers. So, this one's got the deeper purple, and then we got the pink. And I really like this one. And look at how this one's actually got like a white on the inside and the pink on the outside. But sometimes, we get so caught up in going and getting the latest, greatest plant at the garden center, which these would have been when I bought them, but they self-sowed and they're just doing a gorgeous job. This is just going to be a carpet of petunias in another week or two. And I have been, it's been so dry, I have been watering these regularly, and I've also been giving these a shot of a liquid fertilizer every couple weeks. But I love that look. So in the front here, I've got this other fuchsia I've got, and this is why I'm really not sure what's going on with the fuchsias. I think these are more, no, these are actually seeds. So maybe I need to just, give it a good hack and whack and let some new flower buds come up. I believe this is one called Swing Time. It's a double. But there was one plant in the pot that was basically dying back, so I just came through and ripped it out, and now everything looks great. And the plant itself looks healthy, but I probably do just need to come back and do some deadheading, because it's putting all of its energy into growing new seeds as opposed to new flowers. The foliage, let me zoom in, the foliage looks perfectly healthy. And then I've got some more of the petunias growing here, and these are volunteers as well. Got a few weeds I need to pick out in there, but really love the pinks. I love the variation of the petunias from seedling. I don't really see, as cool as the new cultivars are, I think this is pretty cool as well. And then I think I showed you folks that I pruned this Varder Valley here. I'll prune this Varder Valley here, and hopefully we can make a video of pruning the one over here. Before I show you the next plant, I just want to show you this this book I got. It's called The Power of Now, and it's about trying to be in the moment and not think about the past and not think about the future, and to kind of clear out the clutter in your mind. So I just wanted to mention that before I show you the next thing. So the author of that book talks about being conscious and being aware of what's going around you, and being in the moment, not thinking about what happened to you in the past, not trying to prepare for what may happen in the future, things you can't control in the future, but just being in the present moment as a way to kind of simplify life. So whenever he gives presentations, and he's got a YouTube channel, he always has some flowers next to him. And he'll look at the flowers and be like, take the moment and just, look at the flowers and appreciate the flowers. And you can feel the life force in the flowers. I'm not sure he says life force, but the essence of the flowers, let's say. And I think that these Impatiens are a great example of that when I look at them, because I bought these at a nursery last year. I grew them, they were gorgeous. They were all pretty close to this pink. The 3 pots at the back started regrowing over the winter from seedlings. When I brought this pot outside in the spring, there were literally no flowers in this pot. And now, all by themselves, all I had to do was water them. These Impatiens have come back and grown and turned into all these amazing colors. And you've got different degrees. There's a little bit of Japanese beetle, but you've got this more orangey pink, and then you've got the more pinky pink, and you've got the whites. So they've reverted back to whatever they were, but this pot does just kind of reinforce to me how wonderful life is, and unpredictable and amazing nature is. If you look up here, this is a meadow rue that is 8 feet tall. I didn't stake it. And it just started growing because it was in the soil, and it just decided this was a good place to live. And I've considered tying it to the house, which I probably should before there's a heavy rain or wind. Although, man, we had some heavy rain 2 days ago. But I just love stuff like that. That, to me, makes a garden. Not perfection, don't get me wrong, I love my perfect edges. But the variability of gardens is what makes a garden to me. And then look at this Heartledge wine. So this is Heartledge wine, Calycanthus, growing in full sun. And I mean, this is like a screening. Like, if I was going to plant this in a landscape with some nice organic soil and a sprinkler system, I would probably space these about 5 feet between plants and just let them do their thing. And they're pretty much like a screening plant. Look at the size of these leaves. But what I want you to notice is, this is all, the new growth on this plant starts, so right here, this is new growth. So this whole branch, which is almost 2 feet long, this is all new growth this year. And up here, the new growth starts here. So this is all new growth here. And you see this branch here? So this is where the branch ended, new buds, new growth. But I will take this way back, and it's gonna look like a hack job when I'm done. And I do wish I pruned this shrub about a month earlier, so we may lose some blooms. But I really love this Hartlage wine Calycanthus. So I did get out and remove my daffodils that were growing here. And each of these holes you see right there, this is actually Casablanca Oriental lilies growing. So I put like 3 bulbs in each hole. Hopefully, they'll get established this year. I do just want you folks to notice, this is just Echinacea purpurea, purple coneflower. I'm not sure the cultivar, but it has been ungodly hot and ungodly dry. I mean, everybody's lawn is burned out around here, and the purple coneflower looks this good. Hot, dry, full sun, keep it in mind. The butterflies love it. This is another grouping of common milkweed in the garden. I didn't plant this, Mother Nature planted it. And this is the one, I think I showed you this flower before. And you see over here, there's one, what I'm gonna do, there's one kind of getting away. There's rhizomes that will spread and take over everything. So what I'm gonna do is if I see it growing anywhere besides this one clump here, like right here, or back there's one coming, I will just dig those out and either put them in the clump or just dig them out. So we'll let the common milkweed do its thing, but we won't let it just take over everything. And if you keep up with that on a regular basis, while it is called a weed, it's a milkweed, it's not a big deal to take care of. But, a lot of people will call me to take care of gardens that have been neglected for years, and then be like, I don't know why, I don't know why it got so out of control. I don't know what happened, or gardening is a lot of work. And it's not that gardening is a lot of work, but you have to keep up with it on a regular basis. And the more I do it, the more I realize that it's not like a once and done in the spring. If you get behind a little bit, it's no big deal. But if you just neglect gardens for a year or two, I've even seen pictures of my gardens here when my kids were younger, and you just don't have time at that phase in life. Things get out of hand very quickly. This is Geranium Biacovo, and the reason I wanted to show you this was just because I pruned it back with a weed whacker. So what you're looking at is basically me taking a weed whacker and just running it around the shrubs or the perennials, which looks fine. And as you can see, we've now got some secondary flowers coming in. So sometimes a weed whacker lawnmower is the right tool for the job. And look at the dawn redwood. Look at these roots. And look at this. I mean, I almost want to just start climbing this tree with that nice branch structure. And I made sure I almost want to cut some of these lower branches, but I don't, because I want to leave it so that you can climb up into it. This one right here, you would grab the one up top and then use that for your foot, and you could just kind of shimmy up it. So I'm going to try to leave this one branch so that this tree can be climbed. And I did climb up last spring and thin out the middle. There's like a lot of suckers on dawn redwood, which you probably don't need to remove, but I tried to remove them to leave a nice scaffold. And then these are my toad lilies over here. This is just Tricitrus hirta. And I was walking in a nature center recently, and I was in the middle of the woods, and there was like skunk cabbage, but just uphill from the skunk cabbage in nature was this Tricitrus. It was deep shade. It wasn't really the damp area that the skunk cabbage grows, but just up from it. And it was really interesting to see. I never really knew what a toad lily was before, until a couple years ago. But it was interesting to kind of see it in its native environment. Kind of like people. Some people like to go for walks in the forest. Some people like to go out on a Friday night. Some people choose jobs, like accounting or engineering. Some people choose jobs like sales. Plants are the same way. They have a certain environment they want to be in. And if you put them in that right environment, they're going to thrive. This is my catmint. And I'm not really sure what these white moths are. They're like little white moths with a black dot on the wing. Somebody said they're sod webworm. I thought sod webworm moths, when the wings were closed, were towards the back. So if anybody knows what these are, let me know. The interesting thing about the catmint, and if when I was on my trip, I saw some catmint growing in a garden, and I'll put a picture. Catmint is, the cultivars grown are usually low in prostate, you know, so this one picture I'm going to show you was probably only 6 inches tall. So this is how catmint wants to grow. And this is a seedling that reverted. But it just amazes me how catmint is another plant, hot, dry, full sun. It loves it. And I really love the look of these little white moths. Hopefully they're not sod webworm. But when my wife looked out the window the other day, she was like, oh, what's that? And I was like, oh, that's catmint. And even my wife said, oh, she goes, I thought that was a lower growing plant. But, you know, crush the leaves. You can smell it. And I think the stems are supposed to be square, which they are, so. And then this is agastache, hyssop, and I cut this back. I think, you know, if you go back a few videos, I cut this back early in the spring. So last year it probably was about 5 feet tall, and it may get there, but it's much, much more compact this year. I like it a lot better growing over here. And then I put one more over here as well. And while we're here, I just want to show you. So I've got my purple coneflower. This is where the water comes out from the gutter, comes along, and look at who's here. And I think that's a monarch. Hopefully I got that right. So we got the purple coneflower. Hopefully this boy or girl can go ahead and lay some eggs on the swamp milkweed here. And we can keep things going. But it's good to see some butterflies. And the interesting thing, these swamp milkweed, which I thought were just a straight species, they're actually a white blooming one. So I'm going to bring the one I have in the yard over there over here, and we'll see if we can. We'll see if we can get the swamp milkweed, the native species, over here. But if you've got a gutter downspout, you know, just dig a small swale so that the downspout catches the water. Make sure you're not catching the water too close to the house, and make sure there's a way for the water to get away from the house if the swale gets too big. But this seems to be the ideal situation for swamp milkweed. And really nice to see a butterfly. And this is the Jacob Klein bee balm, Monarda, which is supposed to be the most mildew resistant. So while there's definitely mildew on it, if it was another variety, it might be just completely dead by now. And Jacob Klein, I think I talked about this in other videos, I think your Monarda really wants to be in full sun. And if mildew's a problem, I would, powdery mildew, I would probably want to put it where it gets some morning sun right away to dry it out, so it doesn't stay damp all the time. So this was a bit of a learning experience for me. And look at this. You know what that is? That's a tomato plant. So when I was using my garden over here to grow vegetables, some seeds grew and I got a tomato coming. How about that? I do just want to show you, this is Major Wheeler honeysuckle, which the hummingbirds hopefully are going to love. And this kind of lingered for a while. They were just like little 2 1/4 inch pots. And then I started watering it once in a while and it just seemed to take off. So shame on me. But this, I think next year, that might actually be a flower at the top. But I think by next year, this whole trellis is just going to be covered with the honeysuckle and the Major Wheeler blooms. And I did, when I was in Washington, I got some pictures of one, I think I was by the Smithsonian, so I'll put that up here of what the major wheeler flowers look like. And then we just walked across the yard, and this is Ruby Slippers Oakleaf Hydrangea. And the reason it's called Ruby Slippers is because the flowers start white and then they'll start becoming red, which is what we're seeing here. I've only grown one Ruby Slippers in my life, but if anybody else has, if this is how they grow, let me know, because I'm not going to say it's a compact oakleaf hydrangea. It's probably about half the size of the species, but I mean, it's got a ton of blooms. It's got a more compact habit, not super compact. Reliable blooms, turns red. I really do like Ruby Slippers, but I don't see it being grown very often. There's only 2 nurseries around here I go to. I don't see it very often. I wish I would see it more. So this is my Baptisia australis, and while I was on my trip, there was actually one public garden where they basically just took a hedge clipper to it and made like a 3.5-foot ball out of a hedge of Baptisia, and it was gorgeous. Easy to do and looked a lot better than this mess I have now. So that's one way to go about it. What I'll come through and do is basically prune the whole shrub in half to where it looks basically like a bunch of sticks. We'll let it regrow, and that's how I'm going to keep it smaller once I get out and do work in the garden. And then this here is herbstone rudbeckia, which I think I talked about in other videos. What you can do is earlier in the spring, you can cut it back, which will keep it more compact and make the blooms come later. And for me, it's basically just keeping it a little more compact, which I didn't do. But just for anybody that, don't get me wrong, if this is the back of the garden, you could have, a 5 to 6 foot plant. I mean, it works fine here, but if you wanted something more compact, that's an option. And I've got the aphids here as well. Are they going to affect the health and vigor of the plant? Only time will tell, I guess. I don't know if those are aphids or what the heck those are. But just because you see a bug doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Some people talk about just spraying them with a hose to get rid of them. There's like a soap you can use that bothers them enough that'll get them to go away. But again, I try not to use pesticides if something can't grow here and look good without being treated by something. I just choose a different plant. And then back here, it was so dry. How dry was it, John? It was so dry, the epimedium was showing drought stress. That's pretty dry. So, the epimedium that I divided looks great now, but it was definitely showing drought stress. And one day I was looking out my window, it's funny, when we're on vacation, you kind of clear your mind. It was a new area. So one day when I was in the kitchen looking out the window, I know I mentioned the garden pond over here, and I could never really figure out what I wanted to do. But what I think I'm going to do is just go to Tractor Supply and get like a 60-gallon or an 80-gallon stock watering tank. And then I might actually try getting just like a fish tank, filter. And then I'll put some rocks around it. Basically you won't be able to see the stock tank because I'll put some rocks around it, and then use the fish tank filter just to create an ever so gentle kind of waterfall in there. And it won't be a ton of water, but it'll be enough that I can keep it full, which then will basically replace the bird baths over there. But that'll get me just a little bit of water over here, and that'll be my chance to see if I enjoy having a garden pond and want to do something more or not. But I want to keep it simple. So for what I'm going to say probably is a couple $100 investment and probably a decent amount of time, I'll see if I can make some kind of a garden pond over here and, get that started. I was walking across the lawn the other day, and every year there's usually like 3 or 4 baby toads. They like the tall grass here. I put a lot of compost under there, so this part of the yard, even though it doesn't look good, it's got a lot of compost. It holds water good. 200-pound dogs tear it apart, but I'll see little toads. So, you know, I'm curious if we create a water source, you know, what kind of wildlife we'll end up seeing in the yard. And yeah, you know, a little bit of water flowing, that sound would be nice too. Finally, it got so dry that my viburnum here, Viburnum dentatum, arrowwood viburnum, it basically, I think some of the ones in the front actually died. I tried to keep up, and you know, like once or twice a week, just bring a few cans of water and dump them on them. But again, full shade, these maple trees, those maple trees, you know, this is another one where I'm not really looking for the plants to you know, be at the top of their game. I'm just looking for them to give the birds some cover. So hopefully with time they will get some more roots. And we got a little, I don't know if this is mating or if this is fighting there. You know, hopefully with time we'll get a little more roots on the plants, and they will do better. But I can accept they're not going to be perfect. They're just enough, just something to kind of give the birds some cover is what we're looking for. I put a plate of food out for what I call the night creatures, which would be the possums. There's some raccoons. We got a couple bunnies running around the yard. And where we are now, you know, what I'll do is I'll shine my flashlight out at night and see, you know, see whose glowing eyes are back here. So the other night, I shined the light out and there was like something white. I'm like, what the hell is that? You know, over by this holly. And I stared at it for a few minutes and I didn't see anything. Walked away, then I walked back and I see this white cat walking around, which I've never seen in the neighborhood. I mean, I think there's a feral cat in the neighborhood that comes here and just kind of hangs out to help with the mouse population, because this is a pretty good spot to find them. And then a couple nights ago, I looked out and I shined a light, and there was just the most beautiful skunk out here eating. And I'll put some grapes out, which I think the raccoons like. Everybody likes what I put out, but I'll put some grapes. I put the bananas out. And I also will put an avocado, and those things are guaranteed to disappear. And we had it's funny, we had some mixed vegetables. It was like a green bean. It was organic. It was green beans, carrots, and peas. And when we ate it in the house, it literally tasted like you were eating cardboard. So I was like, oh, let me put it out and see if the night creatures eat it. And I put it out with some grapes on top, and even the night creatures were like, no way, man, this is disgusting. And I thought that was kind of funny, so I just took the rest of the bag and put it on the compost pile. And it was organic too. It was organic. But you know, last night there would have been 2 whole bananas, 1 avocado, and a few groupings of grapes, and they left the banana. So I mean, it was hot. It's been hot. I'm sure I can't eat as much when it's hot, and I'm sure they can't either. But it's fun to watch the animals. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Probably not my most amazing video ever. I don't know why. Maybe it's the heat. I'm kind of a little beat today, and it's the morning. I mean, the day hasn't even really started. But I thought I'd just, you know, kind of show you folks what's going on around the yard. I do want to do some videos about pruning, and I'm not sure if I should separate them by shrub or do pruning in general. So if you have any preferences, let me know. Otherwise, I think we're going to call this one good. I do have some posts. I want to do some. I took a ton of pictures in Washington. So if any of you follow my blog at landdesigns.com, which I haven't posted on in a long time, but hopefully in the next week or two I'll start posting again. You know, it's a good place for me to kind of share pictures. So Raven just came by, letting everybody know that this is its territory. But I will put some pictures of cool plants I saw in Washington, and also I have some posts I kind of want to share. This time of the year, things usually start to slow down again, and I'd rather be in the office writing a blog post than in full sun in 95-degree weather working in the garden. So if you follow the blog, you know, take a look there. Not right away, but in another week or two, I should have some stuff up. But anyways, good to see you folks again. I hope it's going well. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, whatever, all that stuff. And we will see you soon. Take care.